Child advocate in BC calls for radical overhaul of child welfare system. Manitoba lawyer suspended after punching student in the groin. TC Energy loses their bid to recoup money from cancelled Keystone XL pipeline. 6 people poisoned to death at a luxury hotel in Bangkok. And at least 6 people killed in mosque attack in Oman. Good morning. It's Wednesday, July 17th. I'm Nora. Here are your headlines. First, we start with a harrowing story from British Columbia. A report that came out yesterday from the province's representative for children and youth, Jennifer Charlesworth, decried the state of that province's child welfare system. The story contains really terrible details about child abuse. If you need to, take your headphones out and count to 60. Todd Coyne from CTV News reports that Charlesworth called for, quote, a complete overhaul, unquote, of the foster care system as she examined the case of an 11-year-old boy who was tortured to death. The caregivers had been approved to be foster parents by the system. They received 10-year sentences for the child's death and other abuse. The child was Indigenous. A lack of due diligence by both the ministry and the First Nation that the child was a member of placed the child and a sibling into the couple's care, even though there were documented cases of previous abuse. Other than, quote, tinkering at the edges of an outdated system, unquote, Charlesworth called for radical changes. The Minister of Children, Grace Lohr, said that she is a mother and she has no words for what happened to the children in Charlesworth's story. And therefore, the BC government will create, quote, a new vision for child well-being that focuses on prevention, care, and a new way of thinking, unquote. Starting off by asking senior officials to develop new directions and guidelines. Good luck with that approach, BC. Next, to another story of abuse, but at least this one doesn't come with a trigger warning. A Manitoba lawyer has been suspended by the Law Society of Manitoba. David Hirsch Davis punched an articling student in the groin. CTV News' Charles Lefebvre reports the details of the incident like this. Quote, according to the report, the incident took place when he was on the phone confirming a document was filed at court. While the call was ongoing, Mr. Davis turned to the student and punched him one time. The decision reads, the strike landed on the student's groin area. The student doubled over in pain, shouted at Mr. Davis, and left the office, unquote. Now, if you're wondering if Davis is the kind of guy to just do this kind of thing for the first time ever without ever before having abused anyone else, the answer is obviously no. Davis has previously been disciplined by the Law Society, once in 2001 for sexually harassing a client, once in 2008 for professional misconduct, and again in 2009 for professional misconduct. Knowing this makes me wonder, why did the society only provide a 6-month suspension? Before his license expired on April 13th, 2024, Davis was listed as a valid license holder for the Government of Manitoba's Foreign Worker Recruitment Program. It seems that Davis mostly works in immigration law. Now to pipeline news. The Canadian Press's Amanda Stevenson is reporting that TC Energy has lost its claim for $15 billion in damages over the cancelled plans for Keystone XL. In 2021, TC Energy, formerly TransCanada, sought a claim to recoup money from Joe Biden's decision to cancel the project. They made this claim under a NAFTA rule, saying that the U.S. government breached its free trade obligations by not building the pipeline. They argued that they were owed money because they had already started construction when it was canceled. Obama had promised the Keystone XL pipeline, but then rejected it based on environmental concerns. Trump revived it, and then the Biden administration canceled the permit on their first day in office. You will not be surprised that TC Energy was unhappy with the ruling, and Greenpeace was happy with the ruling. But for some reason, the Canadian Press decided to ask what the Business Council of Canada thinks about it. Remember, this is a sovereign nation making a decision about a project that mostly runs through their sovereign territory. Here's what Heather Exner-Pirot, a special advisor to the council, said. Quote, this undermines certainty for industry, and they will be less likely on the whole to invest in long-term projects. What this decision says is you don't know what the political winds will bring in 10 years or in 5 years, but there'll be no protection for the investment decisions you make today. For a company, they can't have these political decisions affecting their business, this flip-flopping between left and right. I'm sure they felt that at some point someone had to say this is not the way to go, unquote. Yes, Exner-Pirot, that is called business. That's called operating in the real world. That's how business works. Politicians change, politics change, and business has to deal with what they are dealt. Otherwise, we would have a dictatorship of the Business Council of Canada. Next to international news, and first to Bangkok. 6 people staying at a luxury hotel have been found dead, and the suspected cause has been poisoning. The dead were all Vietnamese, 2 of whom were Americans, 3 women and 3 men. The people were staying under the same booking at the Grand Hyatt Erawan Hotel. They were staying on different floors. A 7th person who was also under the booking hasn't yet been located by police. And finally, an attack on a mosque in Oman has killed 4 Pakistani nationals and a policeman. At least 6 people in total have been killed and 28 others were wounded. Al Jazeera calls the attack a, quote, rare act of violence, unquote, for Oman. The attack happened in Wadi al-Kabir, east of Muscat, during a celebration for Ashura, a Muslim holiday celebrated by Shia Muslims. On Telegram, ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack. 3 people who carried out the shooting were killed by police. Those are your headlines for Wednesday, July 12th. I'm Nora. God, it is so hot. I'm sure wherever you are in Canada, you've been thinking that to yourself, unless you are underwater like parts of Ontario have been. It's hard to remain optimistic in this heat, knowing that it's not normal. It's hard to remain optimistic when your basement's flooding or when you're looking at the daily temperatures at places around the world that are much higher than they should be. But you know what? Let's try to keep calm. Let's try to keep fighting. And yeah, celebrate the fact that Keystone XL pipeline people, TransCanada, TC Energy, they couldn't get their $15 billion. Suckers. You are listening to this podcast at sandynora.com, on the Real News Network podcast feed, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Look, I'm trying to share the new feed. I'm going to put it in the show notes. I'm going to put it on Instagram when I'm on the right device to do so. Stay with me. You got a whole month to switch over to the new feed, so I'm confident we can all figure this out together. As I say, search around the daily news brought to you by Nora Loretto. You should be able to find it. And if not, I'll get you the link somehow.